The twin suns of Velra Prime cast golden light across the crystal towers of the capital city. Taemin stood at his post, watching the crowds gather for the parade. His black uniform felt too tight in the heat, but he kept his posture straight and his eyes alert. Around him, thousands of aliens filled the streets. Their skin shimmered in shades of blue and silver, and they were much taller than any human he had ever known. Taemin had been working security for only 6 months. He was not special. He was not a soldier or a hero. He was just a contractor from Earth who needed the money. The Velran Empire had invited humans to this diplomatic summit as a gesture of goodwill. They wanted to show the galaxy that even the weakest species could stand among the strong. Taemin knew what that really meant. Humans were decoration. They were proof that the Velrans were generous. He touched the communicator in his ear. His team leader, another human named Dongwu, spoke in a tired voice. "All stations check in. Parade starts in 5 minutes." Taemin pressed his finger to the device. "Station 7 clear." The other guards reported in one by one. Everything was routine. Everything was boring. Taemin almost wished something would happen just to break the monotony. He immediately felt guilty for thinking that. His grandmother had always told him to be careful what he wished for. The crowd began to cheer. Taemin looked toward the main avenue. Princess Daun was approaching. She walked in the open, surrounded by her guards, but not hidden behind shields or barriers. The Velrans believed their royalty should be visible to the people. It was a sign of trust and strength. Daun was younger than Taemin had expected. She looked barely 20 in human years, though he knew Velrans aged differently. Her skin was pale blue, almost white, and her long black hair was woven with silver threads that caught the light. She wore simple robes instead of heavy armor. She smiled at the crowd and waved her hand gently. Taemin could see why the people loved her. There was something genuine in the way she moved. She did not look down at anyone. She met their eyes and nodded to their greetings. She stopped to touch the hand of an old Velran who reached toward her. Her guards tensed but did not interfere. That was when Taemin saw it. A flash of red light in a window 3 stories above the street. His training kicked in before his mind could process what he was seeing. He knew that color. He knew what it meant. Plasma weapon. Targeting laser. He did not think. He did not calculate. He just moved. Taemin broke from his position and ran. His boots hit the ground hard. People turned to look at him with confusion and anger. A human running toward the princess looked like an attack. The royal guards reached for their weapons. Taemin did not stop. He could see the red dot on Daun's chest now. She had not noticed it yet. She was still smiling at the old Velran. "Get down," Taemin screamed. Daun turned toward his voice. Her eyes went wide. The guards moved to intercept him. They were faster than any human, but they were also focused on him instead of the real threat. Taemin pushed his legs harder. His lungs burned. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. The plasma bolt fired. Taemin threw himself forward. His body slammed into Daun and knocked her to the ground. He felt the heat before he felt the pain. The plasma hit him square in the back. It was like being struck by lightning and fire at the same time. Every nerve in his body screamed. He could smell his own flesh burning. The world went white. Then he hit the ground and everything went black. When consciousness returned, Taemin wished it had not. The pain was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He could not move, he could not speak. He could only breathe in short, desperate gasps. Voices shouted around him in the Velran language. He understood some of the words. Dead. Impossible. Human. Alive. Someone was holding his hand. He tried to focus his eyes. Daun knelt beside him. Her face was streaked with tears. Her perfect robes were stained with his blood. She was saying something over and over, but he could not understand the words. Everything sounded distant and muffled. More voices. Medical team. Emergency transport. Move him carefully. Taemin felt himself being lifted. The pain increased and he wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The sky above him swirled with colors. The twin suns seemed to pulse and breathe. Then darkness took him again. He woke in pieces. First, he heard the steady beep of medical equipment. Then he smelled something chemical and sharp. Finally, he felt the softness of a bed beneath him and the cool air on his skin. He tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. He should not be alive, a voice said in accented human English. The weapon was designed to vaporize Velran bone and tissue. A human should have been destroyed instantly. But he is alive, another voice replied. This one was older, feminine, and carried the weight of authority. Run the tests again. We have run them 12 times, Your Majesty. The results are the same. His cellular structure absorbed the plasma energy somehow. His body is covered in burns, but his internal organs are intact. It is as if his cells resisted the destruction at a molecular level. We have never seen anything like this. The prophecy spoke of one who would survive the star's judgment. The older voice said quietly, I did not think I would see it in my lifetime. Your Majesty, with respect, the prophecy is ancient superstition. This is biological anomaly, nothing more. Perhaps the universe has a sense of timing we do not understand. Taemin tried to move his fingers. They twitched slightly. The beeping sound changed rhythm. He heard footsteps approach quickly. He is waking, the first voice said. His neural activity is increasing. Leave us, the older voice commanded. But Your Majesty, leave us, now. Footsteps retreated. A door closed. Taemin felt a warm hand rest gently on his arm. He managed to crack his eyes open just a little. The light hurt, but he forced himself to look. An older Velran woman stood beside his bed. Her skin was the color of moonlight, and her eyes were deep silver that seemed to glow with their own internal light. She wore robes of white and gold. Even without introduction, Taemin knew who she was. Queen Hyejin, the ruler of the entire Velran Empire, and she was looking at him with an expression he could not read. Do not try to speak, she said softly in perfect English. You are safe. My daughter is safe because of you. Taemin wanted to ask questions. He wanted to know where he was and how long he had been unconscious, and whether his team knew he was alive. But his throat would not work. The queen smiled slightly. You have many questions. They will be answered. But first you must rest and heal. You have done something impossible today. You survived a weapon that kills gods. She paused, and her eyes seemed to look through him rather than at him. The old texts call one like you by a special name. They call you chosen. She leaned closer and her voice dropped to a whisper. Whether you wanted this or not, your life has changed forever. Sleep now. When you wake, we will speak of what comes next. The queen touched his forehead with 2 fingers. Taemin felt a wave of warmth spread through his body. The pain faded to a distant ache. His eyes grew heavy again. As consciousness slipped away, he heard her speak one more time. Thank you for saving my daughter, brave human. The debt I owe you cannot be measured. Then the darkness returned, but this time it was gentle and peaceful. Taemin woke to find his body covered in scars that glowed. He lay in a bed large enough for 3 people, surrounded by walls made of something that looked like pearl. Soft light came from the ceiling, though he could not see any lamps. He lifted his hand and stared at the strange patterns on his skin. They ran up his arms in swirling designs, pulsing with a faint blue light that matched his heartbeat. A door opened without a sound. Dai-Yun entered, carrying a tray of food. She wore simple clothes now instead of ceremonial robes. Her eyes went to his face and she smiled with relief. You are awake, she said. Her English was good but careful. How do you feel? Taemin tried to sit up. His muscles screamed in protest, but they worked. Like I was hit by lightning, he said. His voice came out rough and dry. Dai-Yun set the tray on a table beside the bed and poured water into a cup. She held it to his lips. Drink slowly. The water was cool and tasted faintly of minerals. Taemin drank it all and felt strength return to his body. How long was I unconscious? 6 days, Dai-Yun said quietly. She looked down at her hands. The doctor said you should have died. They said no one survives a direct hit from a plasma rifle. But you did. Tamian looked at the glowing scars again. What happened to me? I do not know all of it. My mother will explain better than I can, but I had to see you first. I had to thank you. Daun met his eyes. You did not hesitate. You did not even know me, but you threw yourself in front of death for me. Why? Tamian thought about the question. I saw the targeting laser. I saw you were in danger. I just moved. I did not think about it. That is what makes it so remarkable, Daun said. A Velren warrior would have calculated the risk. They would have considered whether the sacrifice was worth it. But you just acted. You just decided that my life was worth yours. Her voice broke slightly. I will never forget that. Before Tamian could respond, the door opened again. Queen Hyjin entered with 2 guards following her. She moved with the grace of someone who had ruled for decades. Her silver eyes swept over Tamian and she nodded with satisfaction. Good, you are recovering well. She gestured to the guards. Leave us. The guards bowed and departed. Daun stood to leave as well, but her mother stopped her. Stay, daughter. You should hear this too. Queen Hyjin sat in a chair near the bed. She folded her hands in her lap and studied Tamian for a long moment. What do you know of Velren history? Not much, Tamian admitted. Only what they taught us in the briefings. Your empire is old. You have controlled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. 10,000 years to be exact, the Queen said. In that time we have had many wars, many enemies, many challenges. But we have also had prophecies. The old priests wrote down visions of the future. Most were forgotten. Some came true. And one, she paused, one has haunted our people for millennia. Daun looked surprised. Mother, you do not actually believe. Let me finish, the Queen said firmly. She turned back to Tamian. The prophecy speaks of a time when the Empire would face its greatest threat. Not from outside enemies, but from within. It says that during this time of darkness, a stranger from beyond our stars would survive the judgment of fire. This stranger would become our champion, our shield, our hope. The texts call this person the Chosen. Tamian felt cold despite the warm room. You think I am this chosen person? I know you are, Queen Hyjin said. You survived a weapon that should have killed you instantly. Your body bears the marks of the star's fire. She pointed at his glowing scars. Those marks are mentioned in the prophecy. They are proof. This is crazy, Tamian said. I am not anyone special. I am just a security contractor who got lucky. Luck does not create patterns on your skin that match ancient texts, the Queen replied. Luck does not let you absorb plasma energy that would destroy any other being. Whether you believe it or not, you are the Chosen, and we need you. Tamian looked at Daun. She looked back with worried eyes but said nothing. He turned to the Queen again. What do you mean you need me? Queen Hyjin stood and walked to the window. She looked out over the crystal city below. The Empire is breaking apart. A warlord named Kang Day has been gathering power in the outer systems. He has bought the loyalty of nobles and generals. He has built a fleet of warships, and he has made it clear that he intends to take the throne. Why does this concern Earth? Tamian asked. This is your internal problem. Because Kang Day hates all species he considers weak, the Queen said. Her voice was hard now. He believes only the strong deserve to exist. If he takes power, he will not honor our treaties. He will not respect your sovereignty. He will turn Earth into a slave colony and harvest your people like crops. Tamian felt his stomach turn. You are saying if I do not help you, my entire planet suffers? I am saying the prophecy knew you would come now at this moment, because this is when we need you most. I am asking you to accept the title of Chosen and help us save the Empire. In doing so, you will save your own world. I do not know how to fight a war, Tamian said. I am not a general or a tactician. You do not need to be, Daun said. She moved closer to the bed. You just need to be what you already are. Someone who acts without thinking of themselves. Someone who inspires others to be brave. Queen Hyjin turned from the window. I will not force you. The choice must be yours. But know this, if you refuse, I will not blame you. You already gave more than anyone could ask. However, if you accept, you will have all the resources of the Empire at your command. You will be trained. You will be protected. And you will be honored as the savior you were always meant to be. Tamian looked down at his glowing hands. He thought about his family on Earth. He thought about the billions of people who had no idea their fate might depend on a choice made by one ordinary man in a room on an alien world. He thought about the red dot on Daoun's chest and the moment he decided to move. "If I do this," he said slowly, "I do it my way. I am not a Velren warrior. I will not pretend to be something I am not." "We do not want you to be Velren," the Queen said. "We want you to be human. That is your strength." Taemin took a deep breath and nodded. "Then I accept. Tell me what I need to do." Queen Hyejin smiled for the first time. It was a smile of relief and hope. "First, you need to meet your mentor. She is not happy about the situation, but she is the best warrior in the Empire. She will teach you what you need to know." As if summoned, the door opened. A Velren woman entered. She was tall and muscular, with scars on her arms and a hard expression on her face. Her blue skin was darker than Daoun's, and her eyes were sharp and suspicious. She wore armor that looked both ceremonial and functional. "This is Captain Jiwoo," the Queen said. "She commands my royal guard and has protected my daughter since childhood." Jiwoo looked at Taemin with barely concealed disgust. "This is the Chosen? This small, weak human?" "He took a plasma bolt meant for the princess and survived," Queen Hyejin said coldly. "Show him the respect he has earned." Jiwoo's jaw tightened, but she bowed stiffly. "As you command, Your Majesty." She looked at Taemin again. "Get out of that bed. If you are to survive what is coming, you need to start training immediately." "He just woke up," Daoun started to protest. "Which means he has rested long enough," Jiwoo interrupted. "The enemy will not wait for him to feel comfortable. Stand up, human. Let me see what I have to work with." Taemin slowly pushed himself out of the bed. His legs shook, but he stood. Jiwoo circled him like a predator studying prey. Weak bones, soft muscles, slow reflexes. "This will be harder than I thought." She looked at the Queen. "Are you certain about this?" "The prophecy is certain," Queen Hyejin said. "Make him ready," Jiwoo sighed. "As you wish." She grabbed Taemin's arm. "Come, we begin now." The training ground was a massive arena carved from black stone. Obstacles filled the space like a nightmare maze. Fire pits burned between metal walls. Spinning blades hung from chains. Platforms rose and fell on hydraulic pistons. Jiwoo stood at the entrance with her arms crossed, watching Taemin study the course. "This is the Trial of Flames," she said. "Every royal guard must complete it to earn their position. Most fail on their first attempt. Some take years to finish. A few die trying." Taemin looked at her. "And you want me to do this now? I could barely walk yesterday." "The Queen believes you are the Chosen. I believe you are a lucky human who is in way over his head. This trial will prove who is right." Jiwoo's expression was hard. "If you complete it, I will train you properly. If you fail, I will tell the Queen to find another champion. And if I die?" Jiwoo shrugged. Then the prophecy was wrong. Taemin looked back at the course. He could see other Velren soldiers watching from balconies above. They whispered to each other and pointed at him. He knew what they were thinking. A human attempting the Trial of Flames was like a child trying to lift a mountain. It was ridiculous. "How long do I have?" he asked. "The trial has no time limit. You finish or you give up. Those are the only two options." Jiwoo stepped aside. "Begin when you are ready." Taemin walked to the starting line. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Immediately, a wall of fire erupted in front of him. The heat was intense. He could feel it drying his skin. He looked left and right, searching for a path. There was none. The fire blocked the entire passage. He remembered his training from Earth. Fire needed fuel and oxygen. He looked up. The ceiling was 20 meters high. The flames only reached about 3 meters. If he could climb, he could go over. Taemin grabbed a metal beam on the wall and pulled himself up. His muscles screamed in protest, but he ignored the pain. Hand over hand, he climbed until he was above the flames. Then he swung himself forward and dropped on the other side. He landed hard and rolled to absorb the impact. Jiwoo watched with raised eyebrows. "Clever, but the trial gets harder." She was right. The next obstacle was a pit filled with acid. Platforms floated in the liquid, but they moved constantly. Taemin watched their pattern for 30 seconds. He saw the rhythm. He jumped to the first platform, then the second, then the third. On the fourth, his foot slipped. He caught himself with his hands, but the acid splashed on his arm. It burned. He gritted his teeth and kept moving. The next challenge was a tunnel filled with swinging blades. Velran soldiers would use their speed to run through. Taman did not have that kind of speed. Instead, he watched the timing. He moved forward slowly, pausing between each blade. It took him 5 minutes to cross a space that a Velran could clear in 5 seconds. But he made it. Hours passed. Taman fell. He burned himself. He cut his hands on sharp metal. His body ached everywhere. But he did not stop. He used his mind when his body was not strong enough. He found paths that the designers had not intended. He turned obstacles into tools. Jiwoo followed him through the course, her expression growing more complicated with each challenge he passed. Other soldiers gathered to watch. At first they laughed. Then they grew quiet. Then they started to whisper. The final challenge was a wall of ice 30 meters tall. It was perfectly smooth and impossibly slippery. Velran soldiers would use their strength to literally dig their fingers into the ice and climb. Taman tried it and immediately slid back down. His fingers could not pierce the surface. He sat down and thought. His body was at its limit. He could barely stand. But giving up now would mean failing everything. He looked around the arena. He saw the chains from earlier obstacles. He saw the metal beams. He saw pieces of broken platforms. Taman spent an hour building. He used chains as rope. He used metal shards as anchors. He hammered them into the ice using a rock. Then he climbed using the anchors as handholds. It was slow. It was exhausting. But it worked. When he pulled himself over the top of the wall, every soldier in the arena was watching. Taman stood on the summit breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen cuts, his clothes torn and burned. He looked down at Jiwoo. "Is that enough?" he called. Jiwoo stared at him for a long moment. Then she bowed her head. "Come down. You have passed." That night, Taman lay in the medical chamber again, having his wounds treated. Jiwoo entered without knocking. She pulled up a chair and sat down. "You should not have been able to finish that course," she said. "You are too weak." "I know," Taman said. "But you did finish it. And you did it using methods I have never seen before. You think differently than we do." Jiwoo leaned forward. "I owe you an apology." "I thought you were a fraud." "I thought the queen was desperate and foolish for believing in prophecy. I was wrong." "You were just being cautious," Taman said. "I would have done the same thing." "No," Jiwoo said. "You would have given me a chance first. That is the difference between us." She paused. "I failed, you know. When the assassin fired at Da-un, I was standing right next to her. I should have seen the threat. I should have moved. But I did not. You were 50 meters away and you moved faster than I did. You were focused on threats in the crowd. The shot came from above." "That is an excuse," Jiwoo said bitterly. "I failed to protect her. You succeeded, and now I have to live with that knowledge." Taman sat up slowly. "Failure only matters if you let it stop you. You did not give up after the assassination attempt. You are still here. You are still fighting. That is what counts." Jiwoo looked at him with surprise. "The queen was right. You are different from us. We Velrans see failure as shame. You humans see it as something to learn from." "We fail a lot," Taman said with a slight smile. "We have to learn from it or we would never accomplish anything." Jiwoo stood. "Rest tomorrow your real training begins. I will teach you everything I know." She paused at the door. "And Taman? Thank you for saving her. Taehyun is more than a princess to me. She is like my sister. I owe you a debt I can never repay." "You do not owe me anything," Taman said. "We are on the same side now." The next morning, Taemin woke to find his room filled with people. Queen Hyejin stood near the window. Daeun sat in a chair reading a datapad. Jiwoo stood by the door. And 3 men in military uniforms filled the remaining space. Their expressions were angry. "What is happening?" Taemin asked. "These are Admirals Seokjin, Byung-ho, and Chulmin," the queen said. Her voice was tight. "They have come to inform me that they refuse to serve under your command." Seokjin, the tallest of the 3, stepped forward. "With respect, Your Majesty, we cannot follow a human into battle. He knows nothing of war. He knows nothing of our tactics. He will get us all killed." "He completed the trial of flames on his first attempt," Jiwoo said. "How many of you can say the same?" "The trial is a test of endurance, not leadership," Byung-ho said. "War requires experience. It requires understanding of strategy. This human has neither." Taemin got out of bed. He was still wearing bandages, but he stood straight. "You are right. I do not know your tactics. I do not have experience with space battles or commanding fleets. But I know what it means to protect something worth protecting, and I know that if Kangdai wins, everyone loses. Pretty words, Chulman said with a sneer. But words do not win wars. Then what does? Taemin asked. The admirals looked at each other, confused by the question. Taemin continued. Does winning wars require soldiers who follow orders without question? Does it require massive firepower? Does it require being willing to sacrifice everything? He looked at each admiral in turn. Or does it require knowing what you are fighting for? We fight for the Empire, Seokjin said. Do you? Taemin asked. Or do you fight for your pride? For your rank? For your status? He moved closer. I am not asking you to follow me because of some prophecy. I'm asking you to follow me because your people need you. Dayun needs you. The future needs you. If you cannot see that, then leave. Go join Kangdae. At least he will let you keep your pride while the Empire burns. The room was silent. Seokjin's face turned dark with anger. How dare you? He dares because he is right, Queen Hyejin said. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. I have given you honor. I have given you rank. I have given you everything you asked for. And now when I need you most, you refuse because your pride is wounded. If that is truly your position, then leave my sight. Seokjin stared at the queen. Then he looked at Taemin. Finally, he bowed stiffly. We will take our ships and our crews. You will face Kangdae without us. So be it, the queen said coldly. The three admirals turned and left. The door closed behind them with a heavy sound. Dayun looked at her mother with worry. That is 3 of our best warships. We cannot afford to lose them. We cannot afford leaders who put their pride above their duty, the queen replied. She looked at Taemin. You spoke well, but now we have a real problem. Kangdae's fleet will arrive within days, and we just lost a quarter of our strength. The sky above Velra Prime turned red with warning lights. Sirens wailed through the Crystal City. Kangdae's fleet had emerged from hyperspace, and they brought more ships than the Queen's scouts had predicted. Taemin stood in the command center, staring at the display screen. Hundreds of red dots surrounded the planet like a swarm of angry insects. Their numbers are 3 times what we expected, Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady, but Taemin could see the worry in her eyes. The ships that Seokjin took are now part of their formation. They know all our defensive patterns. Taemin studied the screen. The enemy fleet was arranged in a traditional Velran battle formation. Heavy cruisers in the center, fighters on the flanks, support ships in the rear. It was textbook strategy, and that gave him an idea. They expect us to fight like Velrans, he said. What if we do not? Jiwoo looked at him. What do you mean? Look at their formation. It is perfect. It is symmetrical. It is predictable. Taemin pointed at the gaps between the enemy ships. They are so focused on maintaining formation that they have created weaknesses. If we hit them from unexpected angles, we can break their coordination. Velran fleet tactics are built on thousands of years of warfare, Jiwoo said. You want to abandon all of that? I want to survive, Taemin said. And to survive, we need to be unpredictable. Queen Hyejin entered the command center. She wore battle armor now, and she carried herself like a warrior despite her age. What is your plan? Taemin outlined his strategy. Split the fleet into smaller groups. Attack from multiple directions at once. Retreat when the enemy pushed, then strike again from a different angle. Keep moving. Keep changing. Never let them settle into their comfortable formations. This is not how we fight, one of the remaining generals said. This is how humans fight when we are outnumbered, Taemin replied. And right now we are very outnumbered. The queen looked at the display screen for a long moment. Then she nodded. Do it. Give the orders. The battle began badly. Kangdae's ships moved forward with perfect precision. Their weapons tore through the orbital defense stations like paper. But when they tried to engage the royal fleet, they found empty space. Taemin had pulled the defenders back, splitting them into 5 separate groups. Now, Taemin said into the communicator, all groups attack their flanks. 5 groups of ships came at the enemy from 5 different directions. The enemy formation broke apart trying to respond to multiple threats. Ships crashed into each other. Communication channels filled with confusion. For 3 precious minutes, chaos ruled the battlefield. All groups retreat, Taemin ordered. Regroup at coordinates Delta 7. The royal ships pulled back before the enemy could organize a counterattack. Jiwoo watched the display with amazement. It worked. We damaged 15 of their ships without losing any of our own. They will adapt, Taemin said. We need to keep changing our approach. For 2 hours, the pattern continued. Attack, retreat, regroup, attack from a new direction. The enemy fleet was stronger, but they were frustrated. Every time they thought they understood the pattern, it changed. Taemin was making it up as he went, and that made him impossible to predict. Then the situation changed. A communication came through from the surface. Dayun's voice was tight with fear. Ground forces have landed. They are heading toward the refugee evacuation points. Taemin looked at the orbital display. The space battle was balanced. If he pulled ships away to support the ground, they would lose control of the orbit. But if he ignored Daun's call, thousands of civilians would die. Taemin, Jiwoo said quietly, we cannot save both. You have to choose. He thought about the red dot on Daun's chest. He thought about the moment he decided to move without thinking. He looked at Jiwoo. Take command of the fleet. Continue the hit-and-run tactics. Change the pattern every 15 minutes. Where are you going? Jiwoo demanded. To the surface. Taemin grabbed a combat suit from the wall. I need a dropship and 20 volunteers. That is suicide, Jiwoo said. Probably, Taemin agreed. But I did not come this far to hide in orbit while people die. Queen Hyejin stepped forward. I cannot order you to throw your life away. You are not ordering me, Taemin said. I am choosing. He looked at the soldiers in the command center. Who wants to come with me? Every hand went up. The dropship screamed through the atmosphere. Taemin sat with 20 Velran soldiers who had volunteered to follow a human into almost certain death. They did not speak. They just checked their weapons and waited. The landing was rough. They came down in the middle of a firefight. Enemy soldiers had surrounded a convoy of civilian transports. Daun stood at the front holding a weapon she clearly did not know how to use properly. She was not running. She was not hiding. She was standing between the enemy and the people she had sworn to protect. Cover the civilians, Taemin shouted. Push the enemy back. The battle was desperate and close. Taemin was not a trained soldier, but adrenaline and determination carried him forward. He fired his weapon. He shouted orders. He dragged wounded civilians behind cover. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder and he barely felt it. Daeun saw him and her eyes went wide. You should not be here. Neither should you, Taemin shouted back. They held the line. More royal soldiers arrived. The enemy began to retreat. But then Taemin saw it. A tank rolling up the street, its main cannon turning toward the civilian transports. Get down! He screamed. The cannon fired. Taemin threw himself forward, trying to reach Daun. The explosion lifted him off his feet and threw him into a wall. Pain erupted through his chest. He felt ribs crack. Blood filled his mouth. But the civilians were safe. The transports had gotten away. Daun knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep throwing yourself into danger for us? Taemin coughed and tasted blood. Because someone has to, he said. And I can. High above the planet, something changed. Admiral Seok-jin watched from the bridge of his stolen warship. He had been ordered to fire on the civilian evacuation points. He had been told that mercy was weakness. But now he watched a human sacrifice himself again and again to protect people he had no obligation to save. Seok-jin thought about his own oath when he became an admiral. He had sworn to protect the Empire and its people. Somewhere along the way, he had forgotten that protecting the Empire meant protecting its people, not just its power. He made his choice. All weapons target Kangdae's command ship, Seok-jin ordered. Fire. His ship's cannons tore through the flagship's shields from the inside. Alarm screamed. The other 2 stolen ships followed his lead, turning on their new masters. The enemy fleet fell into chaos. Kangdae's voice came over the communication channel, screaming with rage and betrayal. You will die for this! I know, Seok-jin said calmly, but I will die with honor. He looked at his crew. Evacuate.
Get to the escape pods.
This is my failure. You should not pay for it. Most of the crew refused to leave. They stayed at their posts as enemy ships surrounded them. Seok-jin's last act was to ram his damaged ship into Kangdae's flagship. The explosion lit up the sky like a new sun. In orbit, Jiwoo saw her chance. All ships full assault. Push through their center. The royal fleet surged forward. Without their flagship, without their stolen ships, without their perfect formation, the enemy broke. Some ships fled into hyperspace. Others surrendered. Within an hour, the battle was over. On the surface, Taemin lay on a medical stretcher. His vision was blurry. His breathing was shallow, but he saw Daun and Jiwoo standing over him, and he knew the battle was won. "We did it," he whispered. "You did it," Jiwoo corrected. "You and Seokjin. He died a hero." Taemin closed his eyes. The glowing scars on his body were pulsing faster now, spreading across his chest. A medical officer looked at them with alarm. "His body is failing," the officer said. "The damage from the explosion combined with his previous injuries. We cannot stop it." Queen Hyejin arrived, still in her battle armor. She looked at Taemin and her expression was filled with sorrow. "The prophecy," she said quietly. "The texts say the Chosen would save the Empire but would not live to see the peace that followed." "No," Daun said. Her voice broke. "No, that cannot be right. He cannot die, not after everything." But Taemin's breathing grew more shallow. The glowing scars spread further, and the medical equipment began to scream with warnings. The Royal Medical Chamber was filled with technology that could regrow limbs and cure diseases that would kill a human in hours. But none of it could help Taemin. He lay on the bed, barely breathing, his skin covered in glowing scars that spread like cracks in glass. The Velrun doctors had tried everything. Nothing worked. Daeun sat beside him, holding his hand. She had not left his side for 3 days. Her eyes were red from crying. Her voice was hoarse from begging the doctors to find a solution. Jiwoo stood by the door like a statue, her face carved from stone. She blamed herself. She had let him go to the surface. She had let him sacrifice himself again. Queen Hyejin stood by the window, looking out at the city her empire had saved. The cost of that salvation lay dying in the bed behind her. She had read the prophecy 100 times, hoping to find something she had missed. But the words were clear. The Chosen would save the Empire and then fade like a star at dawn. "This is not right," Daun whispered. "He saved us. We should be able to save him." A knock came at the door. Jiwoo opened it. Dongwoo, Taemin's old team leader from Earth, entered with 3 humans wearing white medical coats. They looked out of place among the crystal walls and alien technology. "We came as soon as we heard," Dongwoo said. "These are the best doctors Earth has." They wanted to help. Queen Hyejin turned. "Your medicine is less advanced than ours. What can you do that we cannot?" One of the doctors, a middle-aged woman named Sunja, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, our medicine may be less advanced, but Taemin is human. His body works differently than yours. We know things about human biology that you might not understand. We have scanned him completely," a Velrun doctor said. "His cells are destroying themselves. The plasma energy he absorbed is breaking down his cellular structure from the inside. It is like a slow poison we cannot remove." Sunja looked at the medical displays. She studied the glowing scars. "May I examine him?" Daeun nodded. Sunja approached the bed and ran a handheld scanner over Taemin's body. She frowned at the readings. Then her eyes widened. "This is not poison," she said. "This is adaptation." "What do you mean?" Jiwoo asked. "The plasma energy did not just damage his cells. It changed them. His body is trying to integrate the energy, to make it part of his biology. But human cells are not designed for this. They are tearing themselves apart trying to adapt to something they were never meant to hold." Sunja looked at Queen Hyejin. "Your medicine is trying to remove the energy, but that is killing him faster. We need to help his body complete the adaptation." "That is impossible," the Velrun doctor said. "No species can adapt to pure plasma energy." "Humans are very good at adapting," Sunja said. "It is how we survived on Earth. We adapt or we die. Taemin's body is trying to adapt. We just need to help it succeed instead of fighting it." "How?" Daeun asked desperately. Sunja looked at her team. They spoke quickly in technical terms. Then Sunja turned back to the Queen. "We need to combine our medical knowledge with yours. Use your technology to stabilize his cells while we introduce human stem cells and genetic material to guide the adaptation. It is experimental. It might not work. But it is the only chance he has." Queen Hyejin looked at the dying human who had saved her daughter and her empire. "Do it. Use every resource we have. I do not care about the cost." The next 12 hours were a blur of medical procedures. Human and Velrun doctors worked side by side, combining techniques that had never been used together. They injected Taemin with compounds that did not have names yet. They used energy fields to guide his cellular structure. They essentially rebuilt his body at the molecular level. Da-Yoon refused to leave. She watched every procedure. She held his hand when the pain made him scream. She whispered to him in both Korean and Velran, telling him to fight, telling him to stay. Finally, as the twin suns rose over the crystal city, the medical displays changed. The glowing scars stopped spreading. Taemin's breathing steadied. His heartbeat grew stronger. Soonja looked at the readings and allowed herself a small smile. He is going to live. Da-Eun collapsed in her chair, sobbing with relief. Ji-woo closed her eyes and whispered a prayer to gods she had not believed in since childhood. Queen Hyejin touched Taemin's forehead gently. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for not giving up." Taemin woke 2 days later. The first thing he saw was Da-Yoon sleeping in a chair beside his bed. Her hand was still holding his. He squeezed gently. Her eyes opened immediately. "You are awake," she said. Fresh tears fell down her face. "You are really awake. How long?" Taemin's voice was rough. 5 days since the battle ended. 3 days since we thought we lost you." Da-Yoon stood and called for the doctors. "You almost died again. Becoming a habit." Taemin tried to joke, but his voice was weak. Soonja entered with her team and the Velran doctors. They examined him carefully. Soonja finally nodded. "The adaptation is stable. Your cells have integrated the plasma energy. You will live, but," Taemin asked. He could hear the unspoken word. "But you are changed," Soonja said. "Your body is different now. Part human, part something new. You will be stronger than normal humans. You will probably live longer. But you can never go back to being exactly what you were before." Taemin looked at his hands. The glowing scars were still there, but they no longer pulsed with pain. They were just part of him now. "I understand." Over the next week, Taemin recovered his strength. The news of the victory spread through the empire. Kangdai had fled to the outer systems with the remains of his fleet. The civil war was not completely over, but the immediate threat was gone. The empire had survived. Queen Hyejin called Taemin to the throne room. Da-Eun and Ji-woo were already there, along with the remaining military leaders and nobles. The queen stood from her throne. The prophecy spoke of one who would save the empire in its darkest hour. That prophecy has been fulfilled. She gestured to Taemin, but the prophecy said nothing of what would come after. That future is unwritten. So I ask you, Taemin of Earth, what do you want now? Taemin thought about the question. He thought about Earth and his old life. He thought about his family who must be worried. He thought about the simple job he had taken that had led to all of this. But he also thought about Da-Yoon's smile and Ji-woo's respect and the people he had saved. "I want to help," he said. "The war is not over. Kangdai is still out there, and even after he is gone, there will be more challenges, more threats. I want to stay and help face them." "You would give up your home?" the queen asked. "Earth will always be my home," Taemin said. "But home is also where you are needed, and right now I am needed here." Da-Yoon stepped forward. "I have a proposal. I am being named as heir to the throne. My first act will be to create a new position, ambassador between species, someone who understands both humans and Velrans, someone who can help bridge our peoples." She looked at Taemin. "I can think of no one better qualified." Queen Hyejin nodded. "I approve. Taemin, you came here as a security contractor. You became the chosen of prophecy. Now you will be something more important, a builder of peace." Ji-woo stepped forward and bowed. "I would be honored to serve beside you, if you will have me." Taemin looked at the 3 Velran women who had become more than allies. They had become friends. Family, even. "I accept. But I have conditions." "Name them," the queen said. "First, Earth must have full trade rights and protection. No exceptions. Second, humans who come to the Empire must be treated as equals, not curiosities. Third, we establish a joint training program between human and Velran forces. We have different strengths. We should learn from each other." "Granted," Queen Hyejin said without hesitation. "Anything else?" "One more thing," Taemin said. "I want Seokjin to be remembered as a hero. He betrayed Kangdae to save the Empire. His sacrifice mattered." The queen smiled. "It will be done. A statue will be erected in his honor." 3 months later, the first human settlement was established on a Velran colony world. Taemin stood with Da-Eun and Ji-woo at the opening ceremony. Humans and Velrans worked together, building homes and businesses. Children from both species played in the streets. You did this, Daun said to Taimin. You made this possible. We did this, Taimin corrected. All of us together. A human child ran up to Taimin. She pointed at the glowing scars on his visible skin. Are you the chosen? Taimin knelt down to her level. I was called that, yes. But you know what I learned? Everyone is chosen. We choose to be brave. We choose to help others. We choose to do the right thing even when it is hard. That is what makes someone special. The child smiled and ran back to her friends. Jiwoo laughed. You are good at this. At what? Taimin asked. Being human, Jiwoo said. You remind us that strength is not just about power. It is about character. Daun took Taimin's hand. Do you regret it? Everything that happened? Taimin thought about the question. He thought about the pain and the fear and the moments when he thought he would die. But he also thought about the lives he had saved and the friendship he had found and the chance to build something new. No, he said. I do not regret it. I saw someone in danger and I moved. That is all. Everything else followed from that one choice. That one choice changed the galaxy, Daun said. Maybe, Taimin said. Or maybe it just reminded people that we all have choices. And sometimes the right choice is the hardest one. They stood together, watching the two species build a future that neither could create alone. The glowing scars on Taimin's skin pulsed gently, a permanent reminder of the price he had paid and the life he had chosen. He was no longer fully human. He was no longer just the chosen of prophecy. He was something new, something that had never existed before. He was a bridge between worlds, and that was exactly what the galaxy needed.